Always choose.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world for
Is that going to be?
Protesters face off with riot police in the center of Istanbul. Demonstrations have dragged on for over 2 weeks, and the world's media continues to focus its attention on Turkey. Is this the beginning of the Turkish Spring, as some have billed it? Or are these protests being orchestrated by outside powers settling scores with Ankara over its foreign policy as the government maintains? There have been few interviews with Turkey's most senior politicians, but earlier I sat down with the country's foreign minister, Ahmet Davutoglu, to discuss the current crisis and get his government's take on a number of other issues. In this episode of Talk to Al Jazeera, we also discuss Turkey's relationship with Iran and President-elect Hassan Rouhani's election victory. Also, a frank discussion about the ongoing war in Syria, the humanitarian situation there, and whether or not Turkey will intervene militarily. All this as Foreign Minister Davutoglu talks to Al Jazeera. Minister Ahmet Davutoglu, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. Let me start by asking you, from an outside point of view, for those who've been following what's been on the social media, Twitter, Facebook, and watching some of the TV channels, it seems that Istanbul and Turkey is almost burning, and that there is this wide scale of anti-government, angry opposition towards you. What's your take on the situation?
I think this misperception and misimagination sometimes which was created. First of all, Turkey is a democratic country. Of course, like in other democratic countries, people and different segments of the people have full right of demonstration, expressing views, and sometimes these demonstrations may go quite high in the sense of tense atmosphere. But it doesn't mean that there is any extraordinary situation in Turkey. The same experiences in the past were experienced in Paris, in London, in Washington, even on 1st of June, when there were demonstrations and there was some police intervention. Almost the same incidents happened in Frankfurt, in Germany, for Blockupy demonstrations. So it is something natural in democratic societies. But important here is, as you said, such an image was trying to be given in international media as if there is something extraordinary situation in Turkey, which is really wrong perception. Every time there could be demonstrations, and this is for us a democratic right of the people. They can demonstrate, but democracy is a system of freedoms, at the same time a system of rule of law. These two things may go hand in hand. If you only refer to freedoms, but without rule of law, then there will be chaos, or vice versa, there will be no limitation of freedom. Therefore, our position was clear. For last 18 days, there were several demonstrations in Taksim, and we thought that it is the right of the people, but in Turkey is a country of 75 million. There was not such a situation as if Istanbul was burning or happening. This is something natural for us.
I want to ask you, you talk about the rule of law here, and what I want to ask is, these demonstrations started off much smaller than they then transpired to be. They grew gradually. Some people say the reason why they grew wasn't necessarily because more people agreed with their demand, but because more people were being angered by what they described as the heavy-handed approach by the police. Do you believe that your government or the authorities have made any mistakes in dealing with this?
Here in this, we are making analysis of what happened in 18 months as government, as our party, and as an academician also I am trying to analyze. I can see 5 actors of this process in 18 days. One is environmentalists. Who cares Istanbul, who cares environment? And as an intellectual, I understand I want to have a real consultation with them about the future of Istanbul and our city. We love Istanbul, and Istanbul is a legacy, a huge legacy to us, amana in Arabic. is to us. That is understandable. We may have different views on the development projects. That's understandable. The second actor is a young generation, a new rising generation, in fact, from 17 to 25 years old. And in fact, this generation was created by during our government. When our government started, they were 7, 8 years old. So they were grown up in an atmosphere of freedom, not under military rule, under extraordinary situation law, but under a freedom. So they have full confidence, self-confidence. They want to raise their voice. And this is also should be understood well. And we respect these voices. We respect the voices of the environmentalists and the voices of young generation, if we disagree. But there is a third group.
Just to ask one thing, just before you
Yes.
go on. You say you respect the voices, and some people point to the statements that yourself and also Prime Minister Erdogan made with relations to uprisings in the Arab world. They would say, well, did you really respect the voices if ultimately you sent in the security forces to clear Taksim Square
that's
and
I will
get rid of them?
come. These two groups, if the demonstrations were continued with these two groups, then it could have been managed much easier. But there is another third group, which are provocators and some ultra-leftists, some ultra-nationalists, some extremist groups, which try to use these good intentions or different views of these two groups in order to create a political unrest. And then the issue shifted from an environmentalist issue to another area where they want to make a change, which they reacted against Prime Minister, against the government, and acted against an elected government. And a fourth group is some politicians and some circles of economic sector who try to misuse this, exploit this atmosphere in order to see this as an opportunity to criticize government and to criticize Prime Minister especially, and focused on this. And a fifth actor, there are certain international circles as well, try to react to the policies of our government. And therefore, when we combine these, of course, at the beginning, our Prime Minister has admitted, we all said that there were some mistakes committed by some police, some security members in dealing with the demonstrations. And Turkey is a country of rule of law, and investigation is continuing for those who made any mistake using tear gas or water during the early stage of demonstrations. But later, next day, we gave full freedom, and police has been withdrawn from the streets, from Taksim Square, and almost 15, 16 days, any demonstration was free, even beyond the laws and rule of law. There are some illegal groups who try to misuse. You can see the slogans they raised, and they are not democratic slogans. They insulted government, individuals. They made some attacks, provocative attacks, to certain groups, especially ladies with headscarf, which tried to create a polarization in the society. Despite of this, our government was patient and did not react. And Prime Minister had meetings, consultations, Deputy Prime Minister, President, all of us, we tried to reach out to demonstrators, peaceful demonstrations. The first two groups, environmentalists and young generation who want to raise their voice, we respect, and we want to understand, and we want to have best communication with them. But the other three, provocators, politicians.
How will you deal with those? How will you deal with them? And also, how will you deal with, you said an important word there, polarization. There's this fear of, do you think Turkey is going towards polarization?
No, that will not happen. First of all, nobody should be confused of and make any mistake to compare demonstrations in Turkey with the demonstrations in North Africa and the Middle East, even with the demonstrations in Europe. In last 3 years, there were two big demonstrations, reactions. One is in North Africa and Middle East, the other one in Europe. In North Africa and the Middle East, in Tahrir, in Benghazi, today in Syria, in Tunisia, young generation and people made demonstrations requesting free and fair election, freedom of speech, freedom of media, and transparency against corruption, etc. In Turkey, there's no such a case because 2 years ago, during Arab Spring, we had an election, free and fair election, and our party won more than 50, almost 50% vote. And in Turkey, there is a rule of law. Everybody can raise transparency, and those demands have been fulfilled in Turkey. In Europe, in Athens, in Bucharest, or in Rome, in Madrid, in London, in many places in Europe, people demonstrated in order to ask for job and reacted against economic crisis. In Turkey, the opposite. We have a huge economic success story in the last 10 years, and there is no question of unemployment like in Europe. I said this to some of my colleagues from Europe. I said, fortunately, our people and young generation, they are demonstrating for environmental issues, not for freedom or for employment. And environment is an issue of advanced democracies. When your stomach is full, I mean, you are, and when you have freedom, then you start to think on environment. That's a good indication. But here, certain circles try to provocate these very sincere demands and sincere feelings of certain sectors of the society. As, of course, state, we have full right to have to take all the measure to prevent this type of provocators. In fact, May was the peak of our success. What happened in May is interesting. Turkey paid all the debts to IMF. So today we have $0 debt.
I will
to
come
IMF.
back to the financial and the links with Europe. I just want to ask one very quick question domestically, and then we're going to move on to foreign policy. Domestically, just one issue which you had mentioned about the freedoms. Like you said, the status of free speech in Turkey definitely is much different than it was in Egypt under Mubarak or in Libya's Gaddafi for sure and others. But there was one criticism that people did mention when it came to Turkey, which was the freedom of media. Mm-hmm. Is there something you can elaborate with regards to that? Do you feel those criticisms are fair?
I don't think so, because you can see our media. They made live broadcasting, I mean, not only Turkish media, international media. Even sometimes they misuse these. I remember I was shocked when I saw CNN International or some other international reporters. They used gas mask during the day when there was no tear gas being used. And they broadcasted this as if there is a war or internal strife. While at the same days, hundreds of people being killed in Qusair, in Syria, thousands of them being killed, there was no coverage at all. It was surprising for me, not only as a foreign minister, but as an intellectual who tried to follow these events. The total media broadcasting from Turkey in the last 2 weeks by international media was more than the broadcasting from Syria in the last 2 years. So it is so strange, 100,000 people being killed, and international media did not make 1 hour live broadcasting non-stop, while in Turkey there were peace demonstrations and natural sometimes tense situation like what happened in Paris in 2005, or in London in 2010, or in New York during Wall Street Occupy 2 years ago. Similar things happened, and they made 4 or 5 hours live broadcasting. And there was no broadcasting from Frankfurt, as I said, same day when there were demonstrations, and many people were taken into custody because of covering the face during demonstrations. Or in Athens, when the Athens Greek TV was closed down and there was huge demonstrations, but there was no live broadcasting, non-stop, 4 hours, 5 hours, non-stop broadcasting, and they are questioning our freedom of press. They made this broadcasting from Taksim. There was no limitation. Despite of their attitude of misperceiving, giving a misperception about Turkey, we were very passionate. This is universal value we will respect. But at the same time, we are following very closely, and it is our duty to follow as a state, who are being disturbed by this Turkish success story in the last 10 years, and who want to sabotage the rise of Turkey through misusing these very sincere demands, environmentalist demands of peaceful demonstrators. Of course, as we will take all the measures, not against media, not against them, but if somebody, if there is such a very fake stories being created, how come you can, as a press, now we are a transparent society, Turkey is not any other country where you can cover the stories. Only 4 people being killed in all these demonstrations. Even 1 person is important. I don't say the number is not, but 3 of them were because of accidents, and 1 of them was police. So, but during the demonstrations, several stories being created, tens of people being killed, hundreds of are heavy injured. Where are they? Where are they?
I guess that's the challenge with having social media.
Media, why I'm saying is, it is important. We have to respect to freedom of press, but press has to respect ethics of media. If you are distorting stories, if you are trying to create an image, a false image, based on false stories, in fact, you are acting against the ethics of media. So these ethics of media and freedom of media should be interconnected, or should be seen in an integrated way, with in integrity, in order to have a full-fledged democracy.
Indeed. But let's move on to some foreign policy issues, your speciality. Iran has elected a new president, what many see is maybe more of a moderate than his predecessor. It's no secret that bilateral relations between Turkey and Iran have probably been at some of its lowest in the past few years, after they had peaked prior to that, and one of the main reasons obviously being Syria. We'll go on to Syria, but I want to ask you what your reaction is to the election of the new president, and do you view that maybe Iran may change its stance because of him with regards to Syria and Turkey?
First of all, Turkey and Iran are 2 historic neighbors. Our relation goes back to 15th, 16th centuries. So we had always a relation of mutual respect, and whatever Iranian people decide is respected by us, and therefore the last election for us, first of all, I congratulate Rouhani for his success, and we respect the result. It is good that this time there was not much speculation about the election result like what happened in 2009. It is also good and positive that there was no demonstrations or mutual accusations after the election. There was a clear victory, that's what we see, and the participation was high, that's also important. And what I see, many people did not expect Rouhani to be so successful, but it also shows maybe some reactions to the existing policies of Iran. We will see what will be changed. As I said, we have full respect. As 2 neighbors, Turkey, bilateral-wise, had good relations with Iran. And on several issues, including nuclear program, everybody knows South Turkey acted in a very neutral and principle-based on this issue. But as you mentioned, especially regarding Syria and some issues, we had differences of opinion. That's also understandable, but we hope that the new Iranian administration will understand the situation in Syria, especially, better than before, and they will listen Syrian people more, rather than just only listening Assad regime. We want to see a stable Iran as a neighbor, and we want to cooperate with Iran for regional stability. But at the same time, of course, we hope that Iran will understand the situation in Syria and in the region, and will contribute, especially in last months, their position vis-à-vis Syria really disturbed Syrian people and all of us.
Okay, moving specifically onto Syria, Mr. Minister, the United States says it will now arm the rebels after it established that Assad's army has been using chemical weapons. What evidence have you seen that, or have you seen any evidence that Assad's army has used chemical weapons?
Yes, as Turkey also, not only because of the evidences in the hands of American administration, as Turkey, as a neighboring country, we had our own investigation. We had several cases, incidents, where we suspected that chemical weapons being used, and there was a special team made as research on injured people, and on these injured people we also identified and found strong evidences regarding the use of chemical weapons.
So you can
Yes.
confirm?
Yes, of course. Of course, we confirm. We have our own evidences, and we shared this with relevant authorities as well, and with other countries. And we approached to United Nations to do more investigation on this. But unfortunately, Syrian regime did not allow a special team of United Nations to come to Syria and do necessary research. Therefore, this statement by United States is not something surprising for us. We hope that international community will act decisively on this issue.
On the international community, let's talk about the cooperation between Turkey and what's known as the Friends of Syria. Whilst the past 2.5 years has seen Russia, China, Iran, Hezbollah, the friends of Assad, have been unwavering and united in their support, almost giving unlimited support, economic, political, financial, military. The friends of Syria haven't been so united or forthcoming in their support. Why is this?
To be very clear, our position from the very beginning, when I say our position, Turkish position was clear. We tried first to convince Assad regime to listen their own people and to make a peaceful transformation in the system so that the rightful demands of the people would be realized. Unfortunately, they didn't listen. Then we worked with Arab League. First we tried bilateral 9 months, 10 months. Then we tried with Arab League almost more than 1 year. But again, he did not listen us. Then we approached to international community and we formed what you call Friends of Syria. And that group is composed of now 114 countries and international organizations.
So they've given little...
The psychological and ethical upper hand is on this side. But unfortunately, those who are supporting Syrian regime, as you said, supported in all means, and the same circles who supported Syrian regime accused others, including Turkey, as if they are doing foreign intervention. Today, yes, there is a foreign intervention. Those who are selling or giving arms to the Syrian regime, they are escalating the tension. What happened in Qusayr is alarming. What happened in Aleppo is alarming. Using Scud missiles, using air bombardment is alarming. But as Turkey and with other countries, we did everything. First, from a humanitarian perspective, today there are around 350,000 refugees in Turkey, 200,000 in camps, others in the cities. We spend more than 1 billion, 1.2 billion almost dollars for these, and we are not seeing this something as if we did much. This is our duty. Syrian people, Syrian brothers and sisters, they are our brothers and sisters, and we will do everything possible for support inside Syria. Humanitarian support, we did a lot. We tried to motivate and mobilize international community, but unfortunately, international community was too slow, too late. While Syrian regime and its supporters were too fast and too, in their action, too aggressive. And Syrian regime was not doing anything on democratic transition. Now, all of us, we have responsibility, ethical responsibility, on why 100,000 people being killed, but the most responsible authority is United Nations Security Council. They didn't act, they didn't do anything, unfortunately, because of vetoes, blockages. But at the end of the day, nobody can win a war against the people. Syrian people suffered a lot. Syrian people is a heroic people, and we hope that one day there will be a real transition. We supported in the past Geneva 1, we will support Geneva 2, but at the end of the day, all those who are responsible for these killings should be accountable for their crimes.
Okay, I want to ask you the level of cooperation between Turkey, Saudi, and Qatar. They're seen as maybe the three heavyweight supporters of the Syrian opposition, at least. Some would say that there is competition between you three. Is there, or have you divided up roles between you? Is maybe one of the reasons why that support isn't coming because each wants to win their own influence over the different groups?
No. It is interesting, yes, there are certain speculations about these type of supports to different Syrian groups. In last Syrian Nation Coalition meeting, when it was expanded, I went and I made a speech to Syrian leaders. And I went there with the representatives of 8 countries, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, United Arab Emirates from the region, and others, American, French, and British. And I told in that meeting that first, Syria belongs to Syrian people, not to any other country or not to one person like Bashar Assad. Syria belongs to you. You will decide for the future of Syria. At the end of the day, whatever Syrian people decides will define the future of Syria. Nobody can impose, no country, including Turkey or any other country, can impose anything on you. It is your decision, it is your responsibility. Our responsibility is to help you, but the ultimate decision belongs to you, regardless of ethnic or sectarian background. All Syrians are equal to us. All of them, for us, are representatives of Syrian people. Secondly, I am telling here, none of us are supporting anyone, none of us are against anyone. So nobody should play the game that as if this country is supporting this group, the other country is supporting another group. No. As Turkey, we don't support anyone, we are not against anyone. And other countries are here, and they have the same position. Why I am saying this? Today is the day of solidarity. Solidarity with the victims, solidarity with the oppressed people of Syria, solidarity with ladies, with women, children who lost their families. It is not the day of competition, it is the day of solidarity. And when we raise this solidarity, there should not be any difference between based on any affinity. Our position is this. Today is the day of solidarity and the day of action, not the day of just following the events in a blind way. Hundreds of people, thousands of people are being killed every day, and now the statistics, they are not mere statistics. Only those who are not being killed, they are refugees. Those who are not being refugees, they are IDPs in Syria. Those who are IDP, not IDPs, even in their home, they need food and medicine. And this is a humanitarian tragedy. Our only concern is how to address to this tragedy, and all of us, we have to be very...
Is there a plan to address it? I mean, Turkey is the second, when it comes to size, Turkey is the second largest military in NATO, only to the US. Does NATO, very clearly, does NATO have a plan for dealing with Syria?
NATO, of course, NATO is a defense organization. Therefore, in several NATO meetings, we raised the Syrian issue. Syrian issue because of a threat to NATO zone as well. But at the end of the day, if we support, if there is a strong international commitment for humanitarian and also social support for assistance for Syrian people, and a strong voice in political sense from UN, and a real assistance to opposition on the ground, I don't think that there will be a need for NATO for anyone. Syrian people can solve it on its own, because in the last 2 years, Syrian people has proven that they are a strong nation and they can do their own transformation. But what they need is a real assistance and to prevent this aggression of the Syrian regime.
Okay, before we move on to other issues, just a very honest question. Will Turkey ever intervene militarily, unilaterally in Syria? Your borders have already been breached several times. Just a few months ago, there was the bomb in Reyhanli and others. What will it take for Turkey to intervene militarily?
If there is any violation of our border, we will, of course, react, like what happened in Resulayn last year. There was a clear violation of our border, and our artillery has responded and cleaned the other side of the border. And we will respond on our way. Reyhanli was a terrorist attack, and we established the link, certain linkages with the regime, and we are collecting now the evidences, and of course on the right time, on the right moment, we will respond with the right methods. But we will now, Turkey is a rule of law country, we are collecting all the evidences. When it has been clarified, the incident, of course we have full right to respond. So if there is such a violation, it is our right to respond.
But you won't
and
proactively
if there is a real threat for our national security, again, we have full right to respond. And for humanitarian intervention or something like this, of course, it is not only Turkish responsibility, it is the responsibility of international community. We need to act together in order to stop this aggression and crimes against humanity
well,
on
that's
the
the issue,
ground.
because if, let's say, Aleppo falls, like Qusayr falls, that means that buffer zone, the de facto buffer zone that was between yourself and the Assad regime will go, because after Aleppo, the rest will follow in a domino effect. Would you intervene to stop if Aleppo falls?
I think then it will be a huge mistake for the regime and for those who are supporting the regime on the ground to attack Aleppo. If they do such a mistake, I am sure there will be a huge resistance, and unfortunately many people will be lost again, and the aggression of the regime and supporters will be very visible. And Qusayr has alarmed all of us, and the reports coming from Qusayr are so tragic that injured people even were not allowed to leave. But after Qusayr, you can see both American statement and being more serious on chemical issues, but also even as important as this one. Yesterday, the statement of Egyptian President Morsi is very important. That Egypt was one of the rare Arab countries still keeping relations with the regime, having embassies, etc. They closed down because it is also an indication that Syrian regime is being more and more isolated. And the message from Egypt as a leading nation of the region and of the Arab world and of the Muslim world is important, because Egypt proposed last year to work with Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Yes. And now, if Egypt makes this statement because of Qusayr against Hezbollah and even regarding the Iranian support, Syrian regime is getting more and more isolated. Therefore, I don't think that such an attack in Aleppo will be without any response by international community and by the neighboring countries, all of us. And such a humanitarian tragedy being repeated in Aleppo will create a huge reaction. This is the regime and followers should not be doing such a huge mistake.
Let's move across the border again, but to another one now with Iraq. Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki there had accused your government of harboring a terrorist in allowing Vice President Hashemi to come here. I want to ask you about Iraq and the sudden rise of sectarian violence there. Why do you think it is? And what's your government's position towards the Sunni-led protests, anti-government protests that have been going on for several months now?
First of all, Turkish policy vis-à-vis Iraq or vis-à-vis the region did not become and will never become a sectarian policy. We will never allow a sectarian Cold War in our region. Therefore, in Iraq especially, we always ask for the leaders to have more reference to our Iraqi identity rather than sectarian or ethnic identity. Because sectarian or ethnic identity will create tension. And today, we want to see more Iraqi reference to Iraqi identity by all the parties. That has been Turkish policy. And for many years, we had excellent relations with Shiite groups and leaders, including Nouri al-Maliki, until 2010. Until he accused Turkey, we didn't have any bad relation until 2011, when after the withdrawal of American troops, he started to accuse. While same month in December, we were planning to have a high-level strategic council meeting, December 2011, and we were expecting Prime Minister Maliki to visit Turkey and have the second high-level strategic council meeting.
Do you think the
Yes.
plug was pulled by Iran on that one?
I don't want to make any speculation on this. Just to say this, if we had any such a reaction against Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, we didn't have good relations before. We had good relations, and we will have good relations with all Iraqi parties in the future. But the problem was not because of Turkish-Iraqi relation. The problem was because of tensions between the government and other political groups, and between Prime Minister Maliki and other political leaders, including Tarek Hashemi, in those days, including Salih Mutlaq, including Isavi, including Barzani, including Muqtada Sadr, Shiite, including almost all leaders. And Turkey always suggested and tried to contribute and say to all these leaders that there should not be any sectarian or ethnic agenda. But when these people are coming to us, we will not say, no, don't come. We never supported, we did not support any terrorist activity in any country. And we, as a country, suffered most from terrorism. We will never, we did not, and we will never support any terrorist activity. But if there is any political problem being raised, and if there is a political case and some leaders are coming to Turkey, we will not say, don't come. Turkey is the home of all, everybody, like the city, as I said, is the city, Istanbul is the city of all people of Middle East, people of Balkans, Caucasia. So this is how we approach, and we hope that Prime Minister Nouri Maliki will improve relations with all these leaders. Then there will be no problem between us and him or any group in Iraq, and we will have excellent relations like we had before.
Let's move to a country which you have good relationships with. I want to ask you about Egypt. Turkey is one of the only countries to try and build strong relationships with post-revolution Egypt. Is that because of strategic reasons, or maybe because of ideological similarities you might have with the ruling Muslim Brotherhood?
It is basically for two reasons: strategy and cultural affinity. Strategic reason, because Egypt is one of the backbones of our region, and as Arabs say, Mihul Arab, the basis, the brain of the Arab world, as well as the brain of the Muslim world as well. And historically, we had very close relations between Turkey and Egypt. Without a stable Egypt, a strong Egypt, there cannot be regional stability. Some people even misinterpret it as if there is a competition between Turkey and Egypt. No, never. We want to see such a strong relation between Turkey and Egypt, which will create an axis of stability. And cultural affinities, for centuries we lived together. And there are, whenever I go to Egypt, whenever I meet anyone, everybody makes a reference of his or her Turkish background, grandmother, grandfather, and even here.
Most of it is not true, they just do it to make them
Yeah, but whatever is that.
They're proud of it.
Yeah, they are proud. And now we are doing this broadcasting here in Istanbul, and 200 meters from here, there is a traditional market which is called Egyptian market. Yes. And when I was a child, I was going through this market, and first I heard this Egyptian term there, and it is one of the biggest market in Istanbul, and it's called Egyptian market. So such a strong cultural and strategic background we have. And today, why Prime Minister Erdogan, when he went to 3 times to Egypt after the revolution, or President Gül, and myself, I went 6, 7, I don't remember even how many times I went. Whenever we go, we feel a strong solidarity as well as an enthusiasm to develop our relations from both sides, because maybe not 200 years, such a close relation between Istanbul and Cairo, or Ankara and Cairo did emerge, and also Alexandria, of course, Iskandaria, did emerge. This is a big opportunity, not only for 2 nations, but for the region as well. Once we have this solidarity and close working ethics and working methodology, cooperation method, I am sure that will be great asset. It is why we are working very closely with this government, not because of ideology, but this government is being elected by the people and supported by the people. Whoever is being elected, we will work with them.
This is what I want to ask you about, just one thing, if you may, which is there's something very similar between what's happening in Turkey here and in Egypt, in that you said earlier in the interview that you believe one of the factors that played in these protests was foreign intervention and people trying to play on this. President Morsi has said the same thing, and also he's bracing himself for what's expected to be angry protests at the end of this month. Who do you think, which countries have an interest in seeing instability in Turkey and Egypt?
I didn't mean, I am not in favor of conspiracy theory, but there are 2 ways here. If in a country peaceful demonstration is possible within the rule of law, if in a country or in a city certain places being allocated for demonstrations, and there is a full freedom of demonstration, but despite of this, if there are certain movements trying to provocate people in order to create an instability, then this is illegal demonstration. In Istanbul, everybody can make demonstration. In Turkey, and hundreds of demonstrations are going on. So if there is such a chance, there should not be any misperception as if some illegal demonstrations are being oppressed. But if in a country there is no right of demonstration, like during Mubarak time in Egypt, then of course there is a right of demonstration in everywhere. In Egypt or in Turkey, or in any democratic country, even sometimes 2 different groups can make demonstration in 2 different squares in a peaceful manner. This should be allowed. But especially in Egypt, in Turkey, of course, we didn't go through such a process of instability or transition. In Turkey, there is a system functioning, elections being performed, and there is no such a case. Demonstrations will come, will go. This is natural. We will be patient as we did, and things will be resolved. But in Egypt is still in a process of transition. And therefore, what we can say to all Egyptian brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, the success of Egypt is important. You may have different opinions, different views, different ideologies, but this should not be harming to the democratic transition in Egypt. And those who are, sometimes there may be some circles from outside to destabilize our countries. This is understandable, this occurred in the past, but at the end of the day, the elite, intellectual, political, economic elite, should work together to prevent this type of actions against the stability.
Very quickly, because I know we're short on time, I'm going to ask two questions. I know they're massive, but one, your relationship with Israel. Turkey has drawn a lot of criticism from Western countries because of what they claim is an unfriendliness towards Israel. Now Israel has apologized for the murder of 9 Turkish citizens on the Mavi Marmara international waters. What is the nature of Turkish-Israeli relations now?
In fact, you are the best person to ask this question because you know what happened in Mavi Marmara better than anyone else because you experienced this. It was a humanitarian effort, fully civilian NGO activity. It was not linked to Turkish government. It was a multinational, multi-ethnic or multi-religious convoy to help to Gaza in 2010. Israelis attacked, killed 9 Turkish and 1 Turkish-American citizen, and around more than 300 people being taken from 30, 40 countries. I don't know exactly now, but at least 30 countries. Many people being injured. And of course, the problem in our region is that the absence of accountability of Israelis' action. If a country does something wrong, that particular country or any country is accountable for the actions. But until now, Syrian Israeli government is being seen is not being seen accountable for the action on several occasions. As Turkey, we took a clear stand. We said, you killed 9 human beings. They are Turkish, they are American, they are Egyptian or others, insignificant. You killed in international waters. You made a mistake, a crime. Then, in my speech in UN Security Council next day, I put 7 steps or conditions to be done. One of them was releasing all the prisoners, and they were released in 2 days. Leaving the Mavi Marmara and other boats or commodities, it has been done. Establishing a commission to search, it has been done. There were 3 rests: apology, compensation, and ending embargo against Gaza. After long negotiations, as you know, in March, they apologized. And this is important for the accountability, for the admitting the crime being committed. This is being fulfilled. Now we are talking on compensation, negotiating on compensation, continuing. Once it has been finalized, the money or the amount is not important, but as I said, accountability is important. And third, the embargo must be lifted, and there are certain positive developments, especially for humanitarian assistance commodities reaching to Gaza, and there are some positive developments which we observe. We will see whenever these 2 being completed, then the relations might be normalized. But as I said, Turkey is a country of principles, a country of clear policy vis-à-vis Syria or vis-à-vis Israel or vis-à-vis any country. We are always on the side of the rights and on the side of justice, and we are always with the oppressed people. Whoever is oppressing is not important, but when there is no oppression, then of course relations might be normalized.
Okay, my final question, just very quickly. Do you still want entry in the EU? Does Turkey still want to go into the EU, especially when you've seen the mistakes or the suffering of Greece, Portugal, and other countries because of their entry in the EU?
Yes, still we think that Turkey should be in EU. Why? For different reasons. But Turkey is not any other country. Turkey will not suffer. Turkey will bring more and more dynamism to EU. Turkey is a self-confident country. We will bring cultural richness to EU. We will bring strategic asset to EU. But at the same time, Turkish history is a European history as well, Asian history, Middle Eastern history, but also European history. And European history cannot be written within the Ottoman archive, without the Ottoman archives here, almost 1 kilometer from here. So we are part of the European history, and we will be part of the European future. Therefore, we are confident, and we want to be in. But the problem is on the other side. They are not self-confident enough to accept this challenge. But with EU or without the EU, Turkey will continue this historic development based on certain clear principles as democracy, economic development, and active foreign policy.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.